What's up, everybody? Welcome to my very first webinar. Super excited to be doing this. This is a big step for me, although it may seem that way because I've been doing the podcast now for almost a year, and that's video and audio. And so many times I do things like this, but this is a first for me. And this is the idea of this webinar, and the idea of doing these now moving forward is for me to share more like what I do with my clients and what I want to do with this industry. So I'm excited to share this with you guys today. And yeah, let's just get right in. So I'm quickly going to share my screen. And feel free, ask questions. Yeah, I want to know what you guys think. So today, we are going to talk about how to put your brand on the map and bring life into your business. What I'm going to do is going to take a systematic look at the systems and processes required for you to be successful in this industry. This industry is plagued with so many challenges, just like any other industry, but there are a few unique things we can do in our space that will really help us all to become better, and then ideally the entire industry improves. So who am I? I am Brad Bodnerchuk. I am restaurant consultant here in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And I come to you guys today with 20 years experience in this space. I have a sincere desire to see our industry flourish. And I love creating a unique and new way to help businesses thrive in this space specifically. What we'll cover today is we're going to break down what industry leaders do. So what are the people that are truly making this industry work? What are they doing day in and day out in their business to make sure they're pushing themselves and their brand forward? We're going to talk about mindset and its impact on your business. It is so key for us. I think we're hearing it more and more as the years go by, probably more in the last 5 years than we have in the last 10. The idea of making sure we're really mindful of how we're thinking and why we're thinking the thoughts we're thinking. So we'll dive into mindset and how it impacts your business in the restaurant industry specifically. And then we'll talk about that one thing. What is that one thing we all can be doing right now in our businesses to have a positive impact? And outside of that, we'll also dive into something I've borrowed from my coach, Nii. Shout out Nii Shobo. Check him out on I'm Not You. His podcast, I'm Not You, or Sports Motivation Podcast on iTunes. He talks about this thing called a GPS. So we'll dive into what your business GPS should be and what that will look like. And then finally, we'll look at what working together, meaning you working with me, would look like. This comes up so much for me when I'm sitting alone at my desk and writing up concepts for clients, or even just pontificating on my own business. I constantly am thinking of a culture of excellence. And being someone who loves sports and has always loved sports, this comes up for me a lot. And this is teams like the New England Patriots. So why does New England Patriots come up for me? Not because I love the team, but because of their culture and what they're about. What they've done in New England is created a culture of winning, just like they've done in New York with the Yankees, or you could argue back in the day with the Montreal Canadiens when they won so many championships after so many championships. What they're doing is they've built a culture of winning and a culture of excellence. So I like to take a lot of what they've done in their business of a sports team, and take it and apply it to what we're doing in our industry today. A quick story I'll share is, and I don't know if I'm getting this a little bit exaggerated or not, but Bill Belichick, the coach of the New England Patriots, one, he's not a great football player, never was, but he is a great coach. And people want to be around him because of his culture of winning and his culture of excellence. There have been players that have come through the doors of the New England Patriots who could have very easily made millions and millions more, but they decided to stick with New England. Why? Because even though they were taking a few million less, their likelihood of winning a championship with New England was much greater than with any other team. So you have professional football players who are more intrigued to be involved with a culture of excellence than an extra $2, $3, $4, $5 million. That is what we want to create in our business. We want to create a culture of excellence so people want to be a part of it. They want to help us create even more success in our business. So what can we do to create that culture of excellence in our space? These for me are 3, albeit 5 people in our space that are truly industry leaders. These are teams and individuals who are setting the standards for excellence. So restaurants, for these gentlemen, these people can't be good. They can't be okay. They have to be great. They have to be exceptional. So we're looking at Danny Meyer, who has for the longest time been an absolute legend in this space, always thinking of the next thing and always creating and really investing in his people and his culture. The next, we have the guys that created Sweet Green down in the US. If you guys don't know about Sweet Green and you're in the restaurant industry, I beg you, please go read up on what these guys have done with their brand. They are, to my knowledge, the only $1 billion valued restaurant company in the world. I could be wrong, but what they've done with Sweet Green is amazing. And especially 3 guys that don't come from a restaurant or a hospitality background. The culture they've created, the brand they've created, and the work they've done is absolutely exceptional. So check them out if you don't already know what they're about. And then arguably one of the other most celebrated names right now in food, David Chang. We don't need to spend much time on what he's doing. He is extremely hot right now, but it's not just a flash in the pan, if you will, pardon the pun. What David is doing is completely unique, and he is making sure he's getting all the juice out of the squeeze with what he's doing. He's surrounding himself with amazing people and executing some incredible projects. And might I add along the way, tripping as well and failing, which is super important for us all to do. Let's dive deeper into what Danny Meyer is. So Danny Meyer is consistent, creative, confident, and clear. Read his books, dive into what Danny Meyer is, and these are the things that will keep coming up. He is ridiculously consistent. He is very, very creative. Look at what he's done with Shake Shack, completely reinvented what the burger industry, what the fast food industry is in the US. He's very confident in himself as well as his team, and he's extremely clear on his vision. Super important. We can learn a ton from someone like Danny Meyer. Then we look at, again, the Sweet Green founders. Again, 3 guys that came to this industry with no experience at all. They are extremely innovative. Their brand and what they're about is extremely honest. They are very, very focused and very humble. Very, very humble. For a company that has $1 billion valuation, these guys have remained extremely humble. And that has a ripple effect within their culture, which again will come up a lot in this presentation. Then last, David Chang. He is extremely smart. He's extremely passionate. He's very focused, and he's hyper aware. What I mean by aware is he seems to be, as much as he's a trendsetter, he's also very conscious of what is going on around him and where he should be investing and what trends he's willing to kind of have him and his team dive deeper into. He is hyper aware and very, very sharp, like that knife he's holding. Yeah, super, super turned on guy, and have a lot of respect for him and his team, what they're doing. Next, we have the common trait. So what is the common trait? What do they all share? What are they doing that no one else is doing? This is a photo, a very old photo of the New York Yankees. And if you look at the middle of the photo, you'll see Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth, arguably, again, I'm not a big baseball guy or a big baseball aficionado, but Babe Ruth was probably the most talented guy on that team, or at least reported to be the most talented guy on that team. But what that created, and Babe Ruth even being there, truly impacted the culture, and then who wanted to be around that. And I would argue someone like a Babe Ruth would lift everyone else up around them, so that culture would look completely different when you have a Babe Ruth on your team. So can we, with our industry, can we with our single small brick and mortar location, can we create the Babe Ruth vibe and have people wanting to be a part of what we're doing? That's what we want to create. And it all comes back to culture. So what is your culture? Who sets the standard? Who maintains it? Who nurtures it? And why? So these are questions that I would ask any of my clients. And you'd be surprised how many people can't answer that very first question. What is your culture? What does it feel like? What does it taste like? What does it smell like? All of those things. When someone is exposed to your brand, what does your culture speak to them? And what do you want it to be? And then who is in charge of setting that standard? Arguably, it should be the owner, general manager, leadership team. But who is setting that standard day in and day out? Who maintains it? Who nurtures it? And why? I always like to look at and discuss with my clients and prospective clients day one, meaning day one when you opened up your business, what did this landscape look like? And what I mean by that is walk me through everything that was a reality for you on day one. What was the room like? What were the bathrooms like? What was the menu like? What was your attitude like? What did the staff look like? What did you look like? I would be very surprised if you didn't tell me that everything was as close to perfect as it could be. Now, perfect, again, is never achievable. As my dad always says, there's a long lineup for perfect. It cannot be achieved, but we can do whatever we can to get as close to perfect as we absolutely can. So I argue that on day one, your opening team, your reality was a lot different than what it looks like today. But my question is, why? Opening day, your business probably looked like this knife. This knife is arguably one of the most beautiful things that man has created. Probably many, 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 many hours taking a raw product and turning it into this gorgeous piece of equipment. This knife is sharp, it's clean, it's precise. It is everything your business likely was on day one and should be now. But is it? What is the current reality? This photo, it speaks to me so loudly of so many of us in this industry right now and what we're facing, our realities. And it's a photo of this gentleman with his head buried in his hands, and there's cell phones and iPads and papers and pens and everything coming at him, and he feels overwhelmed. And I feel like for so many of us, that is our reality today in this space. We feel completely overwhelmed and we don't know where to turn, what moves to make, and how to make them. From the sharp knife, that beautiful, precise tool, that piece of equipment that was made many, many, many hours to create that one item that looks and is so perfect, or as close to perfect can be, now looks like this. Meaning, where is that knife? This is the reality right here. This picture for me sums up so many of us in the industry, so many people that I want to work with and help get back to that image of that pristine knife. This is what happens. We go out and buy all these different tools to try and fix the issue, and it just ends up becoming this pile of junk. And I don't want that for our industry. I don't want that for your business. I don't want that for my business. So what do we need to do to make sure we avoid this mess altogether? And I argue less is more. So going back even to those last two photos, we had that one photo of that pristine knife, and arguably it's the only knife that you need in a kitchen. Feel free to interject, all you chefs. But then we look at the second photo where there's knives and forks and hammers and screwdrivers. It's just there's too much, and it's too much noise, and it causes a lot of stress and distraction. So less is more. We always hear things like shortening your menu. Okay, that's something that I'm a big proponent of. And it's been done probably the last 10, 15 years, where you're seeing places that really succeed are the ones that focus on only a few things and do them extremely, extremely well. Then you have my advice of reflecting on day one. What was the reality? I would imagine back then on day one, less was more. You only focused on a handful of things, and that was it. Then we need to really sit down and create a GPS. I talked about it at the start, and we'll talk about it now quickly. We need to sit down and really understand your goal as a business. What do you want to do? What do you want your reality to look like as a business, but also in your personal life as well? So working with me, that's one thing we would do, is we would dive very deep and borrowing from my friend Nee, my coach Nee, and using his strategies, this strategy in particular, of a GPS. So we get super hyper aware of what our goals are, and we dream as big as we can dream. Then we take the goals and we attach purpose to every single goal. Why do you want to do that? What is the motivation behind it? Are you truly motivated to do it, or is it a distraction from the overall goal? And then we lay out the strategies. What do we have to do to make all of this become a reality? So many of us, when we think about our goals, whether it's professional or personal, the first thing we think is, how do I do that? Like, what's the first step? But the first step is really defining that goal, then defining our purpose, and then we can worry about how. So have your big goals. Don't worry about how right now. Let's worry about the big goal and the purpose attached to it. And then we need to execute that strategy every single day, period. There is no gray area here. You, as a leader of your business, need to make sure that you are executing the strategy, the plans, the processes every day. Again, there's no such thing as perfect, but as perfect as you possibly can. That's why working with a consultant that can work alongside of you for the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days to ensure this becomes not only a habit, but a part of your lifestyle personally and professionally. And the impact this will have on you will be everlasting, especially when it comes to things like culture. Switching speeds a little bit, this came up for me a few weeks ago, and I thought it was so brilliant. I forget who mentioned it, but they asked the question, are you committed or are you interested? And as I drive around the city and walk around the city, I see a lot of businesses that I would describe as committed. And those are the ones with bums and seats on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and if they're open, Sunday and Monday. Those are the ones that are committed, meaning they're committed to their business and they're committed to their processes and strategies to make sure they're moving themselves forward. Then there's a lot of restaurants I drive by or I walk into and I can tell they're interested. So what is the difference between being committed to something and interested in something? For myself, I've had a lot of things where I've been really interested to start a project and then it just fades away. I'm not committed to it. So what are you really committed to? I would argue on day one of your restaurant, you were very committed to the success of it and you would have done anything for it. But what has changed and why? Are you now just interested? Or maybe now you're not even interested. You are so fatigued, tired, beat down, all of those things. So let's really define with our business, are we committed or are we interested? When we have that defined, it will free up for us so much time and energy. If we find that you're just interested in being a restaurant owner, if we find that you're just interested in having a restaurant, maybe it's time for us to close it, shut it down, move on. As long as we can say with confidence that we've given 100% to the project. If we haven't given 100% yet, if you haven't tried new menus, if you haven't tried new music, if you haven't tried hiring a consultant, then I would argue we have to keep pushing. But if you've tried all of that and you still aren't committed, you feel like you're interested or disinterested, it's time to close the doors. But I don't want to get there. That's why I want to change the reality of this space and make sure everyone in it is committed. Committed to me equals this. These guys, these people. What they're doing in this space is, again, leading our industry. They're setting the standard of excellence. They don't allow for okay to be a reality for them. They demand and create above expectations for their employees, for their guests, and for everyone that comes in touch with their brand. This to me is committed. This to me is also committed. This is a restaurant that is absolutely jammed. There are systems in place. There are processes in place that they can deal with this 7 days a week. When you're committed, that intention, that vibe, that call it what you want, gets sent outside of your four walls and speaks to all of your potential guests and draws those people in. Those that committed will work to get bums and seats tirelessly, day in and day out. And that's what it takes. Interested, for me, equals, sorry, we're closed. Like I said, if we get to a point and if we're working together and we feel like, you know what, Brad, this isn't for me. I've been doing this for 10 years and I want something different. That's okay. And I think it's a very healthy conversation to have. Again, it's not my hopes and desires. That's where we get, but we have to be very realistic. That could be a potential. Now, what does that actually look like? It looks like this, an empty restaurant. Interested people in being restaurant owners end up having empty restaurants, period. Now, this restaurant happens to be absolutely stunning. And if you are watching this or listening and you can have a look at this image, if you know this restaurant, please let me know where it is because it is beautiful. But I digress. If you're interested in being a restaurant owner, you're interested in being a great restaurant, it just isn't enough. You will end up having empty seats, even on nights when you should be extremely full. So what needs to be done to ensure we are committed and working towards the appropriate goal? We need to create our very own GPS. We need to have a goal, a purpose, and then a strategy. We need clarity on your goal. Your end goal for your restaurant needs to be crystal clear before anything else, period. It is essential to moving you, your team, and your business forward. And what do we want to be true? Meaning a question that you need to answer yourselves. What do you want to be true 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? Not only for your business, but for yourself, maybe for your team as well. What opportunities are you creating for them within those timeframes? What does it look like? And then this is imperative to be step one and cannot be skipped over, meaning we need to establish clarity on your goal. From there, we attach the purpose. We hear this all the time, or at least I do in my circles, is finding your why. What is your why? Well, we need to do that with this. So with each goal, we're going to ask why. And we'll probably ask why over and over and over again, really to unpack what it is, what is motivating you. And do these goals actually fulfill you? And will they push you forward or serve as a distraction? And then it has to make you think in a certain way to take certain and specific action. Vague statement, but it needs to speak to you. And it needs to create a call to action for you to get up and move and create a change. If it doesn't, we wipe the board clean and we start all over again. Then we create the strategies. These are the tangible steps you need to take to achieve your goal. We have to remember, though, that we need to remain flexible and not rigid. I don't know if it's Tony Robbins or Tim Ferriss or one of those gurus out there right now who said, be rigid on your outcome, but flexible on the path. Meaning we have to be able to deviate a bit. That strategy for a few weeks may work, getting us towards our goal, but we have to be flexible enough to bend and curve where we need to. But that North Star, that goal never changes, but our path on how we get there may. So we have to be open to that. Our initial plan of action will shift. Be open to this and sharpen your strategy. So basically what I just said, we need to be open to that reality looking different as we go down that path. But every time we deviate, it is only sharpening our strategy and defining it even more. Again, this has to be step one and can't be skipped over. The goal has to be step one and can't skip over. The purpose has to be step one and can't skip over. And the strategy has to be step one and can't skip over. These are all so imperative to be done together. They have to be done as a group. We can't spend too much time on one and then lack time on the other. We need to be truly invested in all three of these categories: the goals, the purpose, and the strategy. Then, once we have a solid goal with a legitimate purpose, only then can we develop and refine our strategy to be carried out. So this homework is uber imperative. And the people we've mentioned, the Danny Meyers and the team from Sweet Green and David Chang and everyone else, they have this done. Maybe they call it something different. Maybe they're not even conscious they're doing it, but I guarantee you they have a very, very audacious goal in mind. They have purpose behind that goal, and then they have a strategy. Without a well thought out and executed plan, we cannot expect success. So many of us in our personal lives, but also in business, like we don't have a plan. We wake up and we just kind of approach the day and the day happens to us. Again, it sounds whimsical, I'm sure, but we need to make sure that, especially within our business where we're impacting other people's lives, creating jobs and affecting culture, we have to have a plan. And without that being well thought out, we can expect next to no success. Questions we need to ask ourselves and we need to be answered. What is the ultimate vision? What are your biggest obstacles? What is the end of year reality that you want? And what are your end of quarter goals? So we want to break down your year into quarters and really understand where you want your business to be and where you want to be. But that number one question is, what is the ultimate vision? And touching base with that and being as crystal clear as we can with that is uber imperative to your success as a business, especially in the restaurant industry. A list of potential goals that I see come up for clients are things like hire and train 10 new staff by the end of the year. Very tangible goal. And staffing is something that comes up so much for us in this industry. Profit margins, we always hear poor profit margins. So could a goal be for your business, profit margins above 8%? Could a goal for you be the city's best new restaurant? Whether that is locally here at Vancouver Magazine Awards, or I'm blanking on other awards, but that could be a goal for you. And then maybe another goal for you is 5 organic media features, meaning you're on local news with your restaurant, with your team, and you're promoting yourselves, but organically, it just happens. Those could be goals that you can share and attach purpose to, and then develop a strategy to go and get. Then we create a list of which goals, if reached, will create the most positive impact and potentially make all of the others obsolete. Meaning, as we create our list, as we look at our goals for the quarter and for the year, we will cut the fat on the ones that don't truly matter. There's going to be one in both of those lists that is really going to make all the others obsolete. So working together, we can define what that one goal is and should be. So for example, hire and train 10 new staff by the end of the year. I think that is a fantastic goal. And I would argue a lot of the great restaurants in the world, especially in the city, they're actively doing this. This is on their radar of goals all the time. They're always looking to hire, train, and retain new talent. That's something for a whole other webinar and a whole other day, but I cannot emphasize how important investing in your people and having that be a goal is in this industry. I love this quote. And for me, it talks about being, for me, it speaks to being prepared. Being prepared is, it's just, I cannot stress how imperative it is. Would you open up your restaurant without having mise en place done in the kitchen? You could, but your service is going to suffer, and the standard of the quality of food coming out of the fridge out of the kitchen, is going to suffer as well. So we need to be prepared. And this quote says, victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. So it is ruthlessly planning as much as you can within your business to make sure that when those doors open every single day, that you are prepared for anything to happen. Again, there are going to be things that come up that we maybe can't be fully prepared for, but can we anticipate them? I would argue yes. And that's, again, something we can do and spend a ton of time on, is sitting down and creating a list of anticipating issues that could come up for us. What do those look like? How do we react? Do we have the people in place? Victorious warriors win first and then go to war. So they prepare themselves in their mind before they even step onto the battlefield. So important. And going back to even that sports analogy of the New England Patriots and the New York Yankees, the amount of time a football team puts into watching video and preparing and practicing for one game, one Sunday, they spend the entire week, whether it is watching videos, reading, in practice, physically practicing, whatever it is, they are anticipating and preparing as much as they possibly can for that one game. We can learn a lot from that. This means we need to plan and then look to execute. We cannot execute before we plan. But always remember, we need to remain flexible on the path to our number one goal. So our number one goal is rigid, but we have to be flexible on how we get there. We have to be, because a lot of things are going to come up, but hopefully we can anticipate them, and they will push us a little bit and they'll test us, but we have to remain rigid on that goal. If you have any questions, please do reach out. It's brad@bradbodnerchuk.com or our website, www.bradbodnerchuk.com. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in today. This was super fun for me. I look forward to doing a lot more of these and sharing what I do as a consultant in the space and sharing my visions for our industry locally here in the city, in this province, but also for us as a country and then globally as well. For those of you that are out there hustling right now in this space, I applaud you. If you are open right now and you are having bums in seats, you're doing something right. So keep doing what you're doing. But again, if you think there's any synergies for us to work together, or you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, brad@bradbodnerchuk.com. Shoot me an email. Have an amazing day. Work extremely hard. Be super good to each other. And you know what to do. Be good and do good. Thanks, guys.